Hello everyone, Lily here. Welcome to my channel. And today I thought I would do a VR to Johnny at Catomancy Tarot, which I think is such a cute name. And the tag is My Tarot Origin Story. So the first question is, what kind of religious upbringing did you have? Being born in Montreal, Quebec, I was baptized at 10 days old, as a Roman Catholic. In those days, the minute a woman would find out she was pregnant, she would go to church to get a date to baptize her baby. Without knowing when exactly the baby would be born and all that stuff. But, having said that, although my parents did observe major holidays, they were not very devout. They didn't go to church, and religion was not that big a thing in our life, mainly because for them, being born in the 30s and 40s, religion was rammed down their throats. And they were just sick of the whole thing. And at the time I was born, the society was changing. Women were getting more agitated in society as to their rights. So, taking that all into consideration, it was a time of upheaval, and religion was not something that was central to their lives, and as a result, my life. Having said that, exposure to things psychic actually was very accepted in my family. My paternal grandmother was actually known as a hands-on healer, and one of my aunts read playing cards. And everybody in my family, as adults, obviously, consulted with either, they went to psychics and they went to tarot card readers or tea leaf readers. Like, there was always someone talking about having gone to see one and what they were told. So I'll move on to question number 2, which is, what was your first exposure to tarot and how did you get your first deck? Considering the above of what I was just told about my religious upbringing, is I was never exposed to tarot until my adulthood, and that was mainly because I found tarot through a bookstore. When I was going through a divorce in my late 20s, there was a store where I lived that specialized in world religion, self-help, the occult, and nutrition. And when I started going there as part of the healing process for, going through my divorce, I would go there for self-help books. And this bookstore was in an old Victorian house, so it was actually separated. Depending on the subject, you went into a different room of the house. And I had never gone to the other parts of the house. I had only gone to the section of self-help book. I would pick a few books and then I'd leave, and that was that. So it was only a couple of months later that I actually decided to explore the rest of the store. And I found the section on tarot. What I saw at the time was they had a glass case that was above with a bookshelf underneath with all tarot books. And that's how eventually, the thing is that for some reason, although I must have seen it before because I had an aversion to the look of it, all the books were talking about the Rider-Waite, and for some reason, I really did not want a Rider-Waite deck. So I would look at the decks that were in the case, and I would look at the books to see if there was any that matched another deck. And eventually I did find one, and my first deck was actually this one here, which is the Hanson Roberts, which, you know, is a Rider-Waite clone. And that's how my tarot journey started. Question number 3. When did tarot become a more important part of your practice? And when, if ever, did you stop being a skeptic? So I'm going to say there's actually 2 parts to this question. I'll answer it in 2 ways. Tarot did not really become an important part of my practice until 2015, when I actually decided to take a class to get deeper into it. Until that point, a lot of what I learned was through books, and I actually never got, for some reason, until I took that class, it never occurred to me to actually use the picture as a way to answer the question. I was learning by heart, remembering what the cards were, and that's where I would get stumped. Is I would pull, you know, I'd ask a question and pull a card, and I had no idea how whatever the meaning was could correspond to the question I was asking, because it didn't relate. And I also want to say that until 2015, I'm one of those people that I get interested in a subject, I dive whole in. We have this expression in French that, you know, I get so immersed in it that I'm actually eating it. But it comes to a point where I'm just sick of it and just stop everything. But the thing is that I eventually come back. So I go through these cycles where I'm really interested, I get a lot of books, maybe I would get a deck or 2, and then abandon it. And that is until 2015. Now, the second part of the question, which, when did I stop being a skeptic? And this goes back to when I was going through my divorce. Actually, you know what, the thing is by the time I got into tarot, all the legal stuff was finished. You know, like, the house had been divided, you know, I had been on my own for a couple months, and, you know, and as these things go, you know, these things drag on. And also, like, one of the things that happens too is that, you know, like, we got divorced because my ex-husband at some point decided he didn't like being married. You know, the same old story. So the thing is when I was doing my, you know, when I found tarot, I did like everybody else, is I was doing my daily readings, you know, where you you want to learn the cards, so you pull a few cards and, you know, you pick up your guidebook and you read into it and you take notes and all, you know, kinds of stuff like that. So, but at some point, and the funny thing is it struck me that day, because I was doing my reading, and in the book it had the meaning, but it also had combinations at the bottom, and said, excuse me, if you get these cards, it could mean something like this. And the cards I got that day, which I do not remember, I think it was probably the Hierophant and the Four of Wands. And the card said, you know, like, the meaning was that, well, there's a wedding, you know, there's going to be a wedding today, or something like that, you know. Which at the time I'm thinking, like, you know, I'm going through a divorce, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way anything like that is happening to me right now. Like, you know, like, I'm still being depressed because of going through a divorce, not dating anybody, and I'm like, it doesn't. Anyway, I just put it aside and forgot about it. And then several weeks later, my ex-sister-in-law called me for, I think it was my birthday or something, and we're talking, and, you know, and finally she says, Lily, she says, you know, I have something to tell you. She says, your ex-husband doesn't want you to know, but anyway, she says, I feel you have a right to know, so I'm telling you. And she said, you know, your ex-husband got married again several weeks ago. And anyway, and I asked for the date, and she actually gave me the date, so I wrote it down. And then later on, I'm, you know, as she's telling me, I'm thinking about these two cards. So anyway, sure enough, I went back and looked into my book, and the actual date where I got this wedding announcement was the day that my ex-husband got married again. You know, after, you know, making a big show and dance about not wanting to be married and all that stuff. So anyway, I hope that answers that question of why I stopped being a skeptic. So that was the start of it. But although, you know, like with time, you know, the cards are reflecting, and who knows what they're, you know, they're reflecting you, they're reflecting the universe. Who knows where that comes from? You know, we might never know, but at some point I think science will be able to tell us how we can know these things, you know, by looking at pictures on cardboard. Question number 4. When did you start reading for others, or start to read for clients, and why? Or if not, have you ever thought about it? Well, yes, I ever thought. I actually do not do it right now, except for close friends and families. And I also have a group I get together online of friends that I met at conferences where we will read for each other. But as a rule, I don't read for others, except for myself. But I, you know, if someone asks me, I will. And at some point, yes, I did start. When I started looking at tarot cards way back when, I actually thought about using that, reading tarot for clients as a way to make money. But the thing is that I don't think I ever got the confidence to actually do it. And part of the problem was because I couldn't make out what I was saying earlier, is I couldn't figure out, like, it never occurred to me to use the picture to come up with an answer. So that's what held me back. And there's also, I have a story about my aunt that did read playing cards. And at the time I found out about it, she was no longer reading cards because she had a bad experience that she was reading the cards for one of her sisters. And as she's reading the cards, my aunt had this image come to her of seeing her sister in a coffin. And it turned out that several months later, my aunt, her sister, my other aunt, had died. And it spooked her right out. So, there's this part that I don't always want to read for others because I don't really want to know their secrets, or I don't want to know that something bad will happen to them. So I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, a lot of it too is that I don't like reading for others because the questions are often the same. It's, will I find love? Will I get money? Can I get a better career? It rarely goes out of that scope. And you know what? I completely understand because I've been in that position often. It's just that, well, for someone that likes a lot of different stories, it gets boring. All we have to do, if, as an example, all we have to do is to go on a tarot group like Reddit and look at the questions that are being asked. And it's like at least 50%, and I think I'm being conservative here, where, well, what does so-and-so think about me? It's, yeah. At my age, you know what? It's boring. Question number 5. What are some of your qualities from your background that make you a good reader? That is, what do you bring to the table as a reader, and what do you think your tarot superpower is? I think that because of having grown up with an alcoholic father and having an alcoholic father that was unpredictable when he was drunk, I've learned to read people and also know and feel how they feel. I'm not sure if that's the definition of an empath, but this is something that, I will be able to tell how people are feeling. And the thing is that by feeling that, I can actually see where they're coming from. So I can, if I do provide a reading and someone is upset, I can find the language to maybe reassure them. Because even though I feel that, I'm not the one living through the situation, so I can be objective about it. I don't know if that's the right word, detachment maybe, like having the compassion to understand what they're going through, but being detached enough that if a card presents a solution, I can read the solution to them. So I think that was part of the whole question. Let me see, the other part was, that is, what do you bring to the table as a reader, and what do you think your tarot superpower is? Yeah, I think that answers it. Now, will it make me change my mind to go out and use it? No. Question number 6. When did you get into TarotTube? What is your relationship with tarot and social media? Unlike a lot of people, I actually didn't get into TarotTube for a long time. And it was actually when I was taking my course that, trying to complement my course, I started watching YouTube. And actually, I started watching YouTube because I think I was doing a search on Google at some point about, new tarot decks or something like that. And I think YouTube presented me, not YouTube, but Google presented me with videos about new videos coming out, or not new videos, but new tarot decks coming out and stuff like that. And I think that's how I started watching TarotTube. In those days, Kellyanne Maddox was still known as the Four Queens. I remember Truth and Tarot was there. There was another lady now whose name escapes me. I think her channel name was Starseed Tarot. I started watching these videos because I thought they were interesting. It wasn't until years later that I actually came across other videos where people actually did readings, the pick a card type of thing. Although, no, actually that's not true, because I think when I first got on tarot, I was watching once in a while Daily Tarot Girl. But as far as I remember, that was the only one that would pop up in my feed. The beauty of algorithms, I actually never got a lot of predictive type of videos. Myself, when I started my channel, it was because I was actually getting frustrated of reading tarot reviews, here I'm putting in brackets, because they were so positive. And I had just bought 2 or 3 decks where I'm thinking to myself, why is nobody talking that this deck doesn't do this, or that guidebook is lousy, or that the images don't match what we think the tarot card could mean, type thing. So that's how I started. apart from that, until I left my job a couple of years ago, I was, apart from watching YouTube, that was about as much tarot social media I was doing. On Facebook, I had joined a few groups and stuff like that, but it doesn't take much of my attention. And now these days, if I'm going to be on social media, it's again TarotTube, or sometimes I go on Reddit because some people have interesting questions once in a while that I'll interact with. On the other hand, TarotTube now is I'm subscribed to so many channels that I need to start curbing. I need to start cutting back on how much I'm watching, because I am spending a lot of time watching TarotTube. And I have so many videos that by the time I actually get around to watching a video, several days or a week has gone by, and you know, unless you comment on the day or the day after, I find that by the time the video, you know, by the time I start watching it, if it's a week later, there's no point me commenting. You know, it's been said several times, and I find that I might not be adding to the conversation. So, or by that point, it's like, I don't want to bother. So anyway, this is my tarot origin story. I hope, Johnny Key, that you got some good information, and I think I'll end this here. So until next time, have a good day.